So Tommy Robinson is going to have the floor for the rest of this hour. I'll intro and outro. We're going to break in 7 minutes. He sent us a special report video he just compiled. He's about to premiere here. And this is going to be his request to the president. Well, I'll just let him say it himself. Tommy, you're a hero to so many, and absolutely don't want to see you disappear as they're planning. I know you first just want to give the basic facts to the president. He'll probably have 5 minutes to just watch this. I know we can get it to him. And then obviously you're going to give a report to his staff who can look into the case and see that it's just as bad as stuff that happens in Cuba or other authoritarian states, and that you and your family absolutely need political emergency asylum. I have the U.S. code right here. We'll go over towards the end of the hour, but you have the floor, my friend. And so thank you for joining us.
Thank you, Alex. I've got a lot of information I want to get across so people can understand exactly what's happening in the UK. This week, I was found guilty on 3 counts of contempt of court by 2 judges. There was no jury to find me guilty. 2 appointed judges. As I sat in court, I couldn't believe what I was hearing. Both judges found me guilty because they believed I breached a reporting restriction on a Muslim child gang rape trial. They also came to the conclusion that me photographing Muslim child rapists while asking them simple questions before they entered court for their verdicts created anxiety for the poor Muslim paedophiles that I'm now to be punished with the full might of the British judicial system. My name is Tommy Robinson. Today I'm calling on the help of Donald Trump, his administration and the Republican Party to grant me and my family political asylum in the United States of America. I'm sat here today before you to make my case of political persecution. I have been found guilty of what is the equivalent of exercising First Amendment rights. Benjamin Franklin had the foresight to know this. Whoever would overthrow the liberty of a nation must begin by subduing the freeness of speech. For more than 10 years, I've been proactive voice, highlighting in the industrialised grooming, the pimping, the beating and the raping of young, vulnerable British girls up and down the length and breadth of my once great country. Successive British governments have sought to silence me, to persecute me. And for what? Trying to stop vulnerable young girls from being sex slaves to gangs of predominantly predatory Muslim men who drugged them, raped them and beat them for years. I have tried and I'll continue to try to get the British government to take action and stop the systematic child abuse that's still going on right now as we sit on screen. These young victims of Muslim rape gangs have been let down so badly. It started at the very top of the Labour-controlled government under Gordon Brown as Prime Minister. The stories are harrowing, disturbing, upsetting. Believe me, I've sat down and I've cried my eyes out. I've sat and heard the stories from victim after victim and family after family. Let me outline to you what has happened in the second trial for contempt of court. The original verdict was appealed due to unfairness and no due process. There were no charges of prejudice in the case or potentially collapse in the trial as the media continued to push out. They originally tried to bring those charges last year but had to remove them as it's been proven in court twice that nothing I said in my live stream could have prejudiced the jury. One charge was for breaching a reporting restriction. The other 2 charges were for photographing the defendants whilst entering court and, according to the judge, aggressively questioning them. Both of these acts the Attorney General and the government have claimed could have made these poor Muslim child rapists feel anxious and therefore not able to participate in their trial. This is despite the fact the trial had already finished. They had nothing to participate in. The trial had finished, the jury had retired to decide their verdict, which all came back as guilty. I just want to show you now so your American audience understand. Let's look at the anxiety charges first. Let me show you what I actually said outside Leeds Crown Court. I'm at Leeds Crown Court where these men here, let me see. Right, lads, how you feeling? How you feeling about your verdict? How you feeling about your verdict? How you feeling about your verdict? What verdict? How you feeling about the verdict? You got your prison bag for you? Yeah, look at you. Got your bags for you? You got your bags for you? Yeah. What? How you feeling about the verdict?
Oh, suck your mum's funny.
You got no guilt. Is there any guilt? Is there any guilt, mate? Is there any guilt?
Fucking dad. You're son of a bitch.
What, mate? How you doing, alright?
Your wife's a prostitute.
My wife's a prostitute. My wife's a prostitute. How you doing, mate? What are you in court for today, if you don't mind me asking?
You've been seeing your mum.
What, you've been seeing my mum? Another comment about a woman. What are you in court for, mate? How's the trial gone? How's the trial gone? Yeah, how's the trial gone? We just... How's the trial gone, bro?
I'm the one in court.
You're the one in court, yeah? Why is he carrying your bag then? Anyway. Another comment about your mum. That's every single alleged person who's walked into... Cheers, mate, thanks. Every single alleged person who's walked into court today has made sexual references about women. What was it? Which one? Oh, mate, what are you in court for?
Fuck yourself.
What's that? What are you in court for?
What?
Come on, mate.
Why did you just touch him?
This is the verdict. So the trial's ended, the jury are making their mind up, and this is the verdict. This is the verdict today.
Quick 2 minutes with you.
Are you going to arrest me?
My colleague's going to explain what's going to happen next, right?
Am I being arrested?
You are being arrested.
I am being arrested.
It wasn't a breach of peace.
Of course,
the content of the...
of course, a breach of peace. I'm being arrested.
But the content of what you're
Can we just say
streaming...
The content of what I'm streaming, I'm being arrested for breach of the peace. I'm being arrested for breach of the peace. You've all watched this. You've all watched this. You've all watched this. You've all watched this. Can you get me a solicitor? Can you get me a solicitor?
Can you just turn off your live feed?
Can you get me a solicitor?
Turn off your live feed, please.
Yeah?
Do you understand what I've just said?
No, can you explain it again?
Under suspicion, causing a breach of the peace.
What does that mean? 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 What does that mean?
I've been told that from the tweets you're doing on Facebook.
Now, former political prisoner Tommy Robinson's with us. We're about to go break. He'll come back and be able to respond to this. He's got more exhibits, but this is one of the reasons he's going to prison, is standing out front when he's the guy that first exposed all this. They've been convicted, just like any other media would do, just like England did before. Well, Tommy Robinson is a hero across the UK and Europe and here. And he's just a mainline guy that exposed. He owned a business, a tanning salon, and right next to it there were Muslim grooming gangs with little girls. He's like, hey, mate, what are you doing? Put little girls in guys' cars. You're obviously pimping them. Who's your daddy? They started threatening Tommy. Tommy stood up to him, reported him, got put in prison for fighting back. He fights back. He's been attacked by Antifa. You've seen all the videos of them attacking him in public. He fights back. Antifa, the Islamists, all of it. This is only an 8-minute segment, longer segment coming up. Tommy, you just showed the first exhibit of why they're sitting in a prison, daring to talk to guys who you were polite to. They insulted your family. Just greasy thugs who were convicted of grooming children for the sex traffic. And of course, they gave them light sentences. You've talked about it all. This is another reason you need Trump. You're asking for Trump. We'll get to this. We'll get to the U.S. Code, 22 U.S. Code 6401, findings and policy, that you are a prime candidate as a journalist to get political emergency asylum, but you're being sent to prison Thursday. Please continue.
I've had a few people message me saying that I seem tense. It's because I am tense. I feel like I'm 2 days away from being sentenced to death in the UK for journalism. Let's be clear. The video you just watched, the questions I asked them as follows. All right, lads, how are you feeling? How are you feeling about your verdict? All right, mate, how are you doing? Are you all right? Hello, mate, what are you in court for today, if you don't mind me asking? How's the trial gone, bro? As you can see, I was actually very polite, despite some of the disgusting abuse that was thrown my way. By claiming that these questions were in any way aggressive. Not claiming, he said that, he skipped this in his summing up, the judge has said my aggressive questioning. The judge has had to say that, and the prosecution have simply lied in court, in open court, in order to back up their ridiculous charge of causing the defendant's anxiety. Now, these monsters have previously been kidnapping and raping young children in gangs for years, in full view of everyone, including social services, the police forces. Everyone knew it's happening. They don't sound like the anxious type to me. If these men were anxious, it's because they were facing a court case. They're all now subsequently doing 15 years in prison. They were facing a court case. They knew they were guilty. They'd raped dozens of young children. Yet somehow me asking them a simple question as a journalist, I'm now being convicted for causing them anxiety. One of them pushed me in the chest, told me to go fuck myself. I simply said, all right, mate, what are you in court for? The other three child rapist monsters coincidentally all made disgusting and vulgar sexual references about female members of my family. One thing's for sure, none of them looked remotely anxious. According to the Attorney General and the judge, I was aggressive. And in the words of the prosecution, I molested them as they entered court. No joke, this is what they said in court. Molested them. These are the guys that have molested and raped children for a decade. The Attorney General, and actually in their prosecution, said that these men must be free to go and come from court without fear of molestation. The reality is, with 16 child statements, witness statements, they shouldn't have been free to come and go from court at all. They should have been on remand. Let's have a look at me now. You've seen the footage that I have just been convicted of. You've seen the footage. Let's have a look at the footage of me entering the Old Bailey for this trial. Let me show you this now.
Tommy Robinson, are you planning going to face justice for potentially collapsing his trial?
I didn't potentially collapse any trial. I'm actually not in charge. I'm not on trial for potentially collapsing a trial. My charge is causing anxiety to the men walking into court by putting cameras and asking them questions. Exactly what you've just done to me is what I face contempt of court for. Exactly this. You think this is causing me anxiety? Look at your actions. That's what I'm facing trial for. I didn't act this way. This is a facade. The whole public know that. That's why the public are here to support me. No, I didn't nearly collapse. That's a lie. You're lying. I didn't nearly collapse. The judge's words in that case, nothing I said could have caused prejudice to jury. Nothing. That's the judge's words. Read the transcript. Do your job as a journalist.
Were you in contempt of court?
No, I wasn't. That's why I was released from prison. The whole case was unlawful. Now, this is politically motivated persecution by a government who want to silence me. That's what this is.
What do you think about the fact they brought these charges back?
I think it tells everyone the fact. Look at what's happening here. Can you see this? Look, I'm in court for causing them anxiety. Look at all these cameras. Look at all these journalists.
Stunning footage. Tommy Robinson is hosting the show. He's about to take back over again. This is the Alex Jones Show. He's doing a direct appeal to President Trump for a journalistic asylum because the UK is now a police state. If you're a radio listener, these are dozens of cameras and people pressed around him, pressing in on him, saying he's a bad person as he goes in for the kangaroo court to be convicted of talking to people that were convicted in the street. And he says, I've been convicted for what you're doing right now. And they just look at him with hate because these aren't media. These are authoritarian lapdogs. This is how far the UK's fallen. Back to your statement, my friend.
As you can see, that was me on my way into court, just like the Muslim child rapists on their way into court. Lucy Manning, leading BBC political broadcaster. She blocked my path, along with multiple other journalists and media cameramen. She was far more aggressive in her line of questioning. She even assumed my guilt. Now you're finally going to face justice. That was her words. She assumed my guilt. I'm not saying anything she's done there is wrong. I'm saying that is robust journalism. That's what we're witnessing. That's all I've done.
Well, what she is a collaborator with the Islamists, and she's got a job to throw your ass in prison. It's the BBC that famously is always covered up for pedophilia. That's their known thing. So she's told, you go stop him. Please continue.
Even Alex, on Thursday, for the first day of my trial, every single newspaper published a picture of me in court. Every single one of them. According to the Attorney General, that is now contempt of court. We played that video of Lucy Manning in court as evidence, along with many other videos, such as Rolf Harris being pretty much crushed by the press on his way into court. The judge and prosecution completely ignored the fact that every other newspaper and journalist questions and photographs defendants entering court every single day across my country. But in my specific case, the Attorney General has decided for the first time in British history that when Tommy Robinson politely questions the now convicted Muslim child rapists, it amounts to contempt of court, and it could have interfered with the court proceedings by leaving the defendants in an anxious state of mind. I knew the entire system was corrupt when the judge unbelievably agreed with the Attorney General. This has effectively set a precedent. Questioning any defendant is contempt of court. Will you ever see another journalist arrested and prosecuted for asking questions or photographing a defendant and entering court? Of course you won't. The Attorney General spent 5 months trying to invent something they can fit me up with, and therefore this will be a complete one-off, designed solely to fit up Tommy Robinson.
Tommy, stay there. When you come back, I want you to do your appeal directly to the president, but I want to be clear here. TV viewers can see all this. Radio listeners can hear it. It's so shocking. I think you're wrong, though. They're setting the precedent for everybody to be arrested who is a patriot, who's in the media. What they're really doing is outlawing journalism, and you haven't told people yet how they send Antifa to your house, they send the Muslims to your house, saying they're going to acid attack you, threatening your family. This is your young children, your wife. You need to get out of there, and you're asking President Trump for emergency journalistic asylum. You are the textbook case for it. We'll be right back. Stay with us.
Thank you.
Well, there's no doubt Europe, the UK, and the U.S. to a great extent is being swallowed up by authoritarianism. Mass censorship of nationalists, conservatives, Christians, veterans groups, pro-gun groups, pro-life groups. But in the UK, over 10,000 are arrested a year for even having private conversations at restaurants that people hear that can be considered offensive. An iron fist is crushing the people. Former members of Al-Qaeda and ISIS who aren't even born in the UK are brought back, given free government housing. Family members of terrorists convicted of bombing people in the UK are given money for their psychological pain, but victims aren't. That's in the news today. It's so unspeakable how they rub it in. It makes the head spin. Now, Tommy Robinson's doing an emergency appeal to the president. He's been laying out the evidence of the fraud. But I was telling him during the break, I said, Tommy, the president's very busy. I can get this to him. Tucker Carlson is watching. I've talked to Tucker. He's planning to try to get you back on. But we know you're innocent. We understand it. And the White House will want to see all this. It'll probably be somebody like Stephen Miller that watches it all. But what I'm saying is you are a smart guy, well-spoken. We're going to cut most of myself even out of this when we send to the president. What is your direct appeal about what you're facing, your family's facing, and why you need him to give you emergency asylum, which I think there's a very good chance we can get him to do. It also exposes how corrupt the UK's gotten. So your upfront message to Trump.
President Trump, the American government, Britain has fallen. Even yourself, if you was in Britain, you would be arrested and tried. You would be tried because Sadiq Khan would demand it. The political pressure that has been put on the judiciary system would be the similar pressure that would be put on for yourself. I'm an English man, a British citizen who loves my country, and it hurts me to have to say I have no future here. The only future that lies for me is death. Death at the hands of an establishment who will feed me to Islamic gangs of jihadis within the prison system. I have 48 hours before my sentencing. I previously spent 3 months on solitary confinement for journalism, for breaking no law. The reality is, and I urge you, please, get your lawyers to look through this case. You will expose and see complete corruption. I'm being found guilty when I've broke no laws. I've not been tried by my peers. 12 members of the British public, that's the Magna Carta. That's common law. Common law is if members of my peers, if the British public find me guilty, I'd accept my fate. I'm not being tried. This is a backdoor ruling in order for the government to silence me, imprison me, and inevitably have me killed. I'm a father of three with 3 beautiful children and a wife, and a beautiful wife. Last time I was in prison, the police went to my family's home to tell them, and they had intel that there were going to be acid attacks against them. They went to my wife, they went to my mother. They're going to take me away and leave my family vulnerable. My crime? Awakening the British public to the mass problems from open border immigration, importing a culture of dominance and violence. And see, the globalists don't want the public to be aware of this. They don't want people to understand the problems that come with their utopia vision for our world. I've spoke out. I've laid my life. I'm saying to you, I want to keep on fighting, but I can't fight it because I'm going to be killed. And as a journalist, as a British citizen, I beg you, I beg Donald Trump, I beg the American government, just look at my case. If you look at my case, you will see the wrongdoings. My previous, when I tried to fight this case, this is the corruption in this country. The QC, the Queen's Counsel who was representing me, told me to do a deal. And then I was told he didn't want a black mark on his name for fighting my case. That's his job. But he wouldn't fight my case to understand the level of political correctness that has infected this once great nation. We are imprisoning journalists. and our media celebrate it. I'm being imprisoned for asking a convicted paedophile, how do you feel about your verdict? That is the reality. My conviction for causing anxiety? For causing anxiety. This is even before. I want to get on to the final charges, but this is a direct appeal on behalf of my family. On behalf of my family, we love the United States. I have no future here. It's inevitable. I will be murdered, I will be killed, and I will be imprisoned on Thursday for journalism. We talk about North Korea, we talk about China, we talk about Russia. Our freedoms are gone. Our free speech has gone. It's gone. We live in a post-free speech era. And exactly the same, what they've inflicted in this nation, I know they want to do to yours. I know they want to take your freedoms. They want to change your constitution. I know there's people who would take away your rights tomorrow. The difference is they want to do it to you in America. They've done it to us. They've done it to us. Our free speech is gone and it's celebrated. It's celebrated by the people in power who rule over us, the globalists. It's celebrated. It's celebrated when a journalist is being imprisoned. The media, they're not journalists, they're activists. The globalist corporate media, and they have been used as attack dogs against me. I make this as a direct appeal. I ask American citizens, please make sure somehow, I ask Alex, I ask anyone, make sure this lands on the American government. I know that when I was taken and kidnapped off the street and unlawfully held, which has been proven, I know that congressmen from the Republican Party stepped in. I know that pressure was put on the British government. I'm telling you now, it's not pressure that's needed. I need evacuation out of this country because there are people and dark forces at work in this nation. The same dark forces at work in this nation that want to repel you as the leader of the free world from even entering this country. There are many people in this country who would want to seek the same against you that they seek against me, the same lies that are told about you. I have to fight these lies. I fought these lies as a young working class man from a town in England. I've had to fight against the labelling, against the stigma, the Nazi, the racist, the fascist, all the words used to destroy a man's reputation. I've had to fight and fight and fight as a single individual. And right now I'm about to be imprisoned. And I'm saying, if you care about freedom like I know you do, I know America loves freedom, I know you'll fight for it and die for it, and so would we. But ours is gone. It's gone. The country's fallen. Everything you've watched, as I go through the details in this case, you will see that every word I'm saying is true. It's factual. They're going against the law of the land. They are not judging or sentencing by the law of the land. And
Tommy, I want you to add just one point. You don't like to talk about yourself. There's hundreds of these videos of them assaulting you and your family in the park, in public. Then the police always come and say, you're the bad guy. You ever talk about how Antifa came to your house saying they're going to attack your family, trying to trick you to defend your family so they can put you back in prison? Tell the president some of the other things they've done to you and your family.
To the president, I have this label. People want to label me with all these different labels. The difference is I walk the streets of the UK. I am as well known in my country, and I'm loved and I'm hated. A very similar situation to you, to Mr. President, to Donald Trump in America. I don't have security. I walk every day on my own. I walk everywhere on my own. I don't have the money to fund a security fund to continue it. You see Nigel Farage in this country. He wouldn't last one day walking the streets. He would not last one day without his protection. I walk them every day. I walk them every single day with conviction and my head held high for what I stand for and for what I want. And I say that everything has been thrown at me. And what I realise now is that my government don't care if the world's watching. They don't care if they're breaking the law. They don't care. And on Thursday, I will be, what I'd say is sentenced to death. Every single prison in this country is overrun and controlled by jihadi gangs. By jihadi gangs. I'm saying to the world watching, if this was happening to a journalist in any other country, in China, in Russia, in North Korea, human rights lawyers would be fighting to defend them. Political correctness is that powerful in this country. I can't find a human rights lawyer to defend me or even mention me. Every time we speak to lawyers about anything, as soon as they hear it's my name, no, we walk away. Even getting an affidavit signed last week by a law firm. I went to sign a law firm. When they see it was me, nope. That is the power of political correctness. That is how infected my nation is. And I'm appealing to you directly for help. I'm appealing to you for help on the side of freedom. And the help.
Tommy, stay there. We're going to come back and then go for the White House lawyers into the evidence. And we're live, and I'm going to take this and put this up front, and then all your evidence after. The president will definitely see the first 5 minutes of this. I can assure you of that, my friend. We'll be right back. Stay with us.
You got it. This transmission is coming to you.
Waging war on corruption.
All right, you are go.
It's Alex Jones, coming to you live from the front lines of the info war.
Here's Frederico Wilson last week calling for anyone that makes fun of a Democrat to be arrested. By the way, more and more Democrats are saying this. They're saying arrest Alex Jones, arrest Donald Trump. They are arresting journalists in Europe and in the UK. And Tommy Robinson is a folk hero over there, folks. He's well known here, very more famous than I am here in the U.S. He is over there and loved. That's why they're hell-bent on destroying him. Let's go to what the Congresswoman said just last week.
Those people who are online making fun of members of Congress are a disgrace. And there's no need for anyone to think that is unacceptable. We're going to shut them down and work with whoever it is to shut them down, and they should be prosecuted.
So this is bigger than Tommy Robinson, who's a great hero and a good friend of mine. And just if you don't know his whole history, it's you have a best-selling book about an action hero or something, and it would seem just unbelievable. But truth is stranger than fiction. We won't be able to operate, though, if we don't have funding. So let me just briefly say this. This is the last day of the Save InfoWars July 4th special. This will be the last day. New specials tomorrow. But this is one of our biggest and most extensive ever. Store-wide free shipping, double Patriot points, and 50% off all of our best-selling supplements. That's the Brain Force, the Turbo Force, the Survival Shield X2, the Super Vitality, the amazing fluoride-free toothpaste, Super Blue, fortified with colloidal silver and iodine. And your purchase makes it all possible. And one other interesting issue. We do limited edition T-shirts, and sometimes we only sell like 500 of one. Sometimes we sell a couple thousand. Sometimes we sell 20, 30,000. That helps fund things. It takes a lot of money to run this. I've got some big, exciting operations that we won't get credit for, but that's not what this is about. Oh, it's not just what you see here. A lot of stuff you see out there, other folks are getting credit for. I don't want the credit. Submarines run silent, run deadly, run deep. And what you see here is just the tip of the iceberg, I will assure you. I need warfare operation funds. If you want me to go out and destroy the globalists politically, I can destroy them with your help. We've already gone so far together. We've already paid a lot. They're trying to plant child porn on me now. You know all about it all. And I've seen a lot of support come in since then. People are like, oh, my God. Exactly, folks. This is hardcore. Of course, they got caught. The fact it was all a lie. But this is such a dangerous time. InfoWarsStore.com, InfoWarsLife.com. Tommy can tell you, I'm not bragging, just at times that he's needed money for he's going on. Hey, $30,000, boom. And a lot of other folks you don't know about that I send checks a lot bigger than that to for their strategic operations. So you have to understand the enemy wants me off the air for good reason, because they don't want me to have contact with you to get funding that we then turn loose to others with no strings attached, because we already know they've done a great job. I'm trying to run a war here. I'm trying to win. I believe in you. And your purchases now are critical. The Betsy Ross flag, which Nike's pulled off, they're saying is racist, even though she was an abolitionist. That's the group that got slavery banned. She designed the American flag. She's amazing. They're pulling it everywhere. Well, guess what? I had an idea that if we put out a limited edition shirt, they've now arrived, they're shipping out now, that you'd like it. One is the Betsy Ross flag, with 1776, founded 1776. On the back, it says America's Back, Infowars.com. People love it. The other one is even a better seller. They're about to sell out. I said, I'm only printing 4,000. I thought it would take a month to sell that many. We've already sold out 2,000 as of this morning. So a lot of sizes are about to be gone. Then we have the other one that's white and says America's Back, Infowars.com on the back. And on the front, the Betsy Ross flag, big across the chest, and these colors don't run. And that's the one that's selling out so quick. Don't worry. It's so popular, I'm going to make a new limited edition after this, okay? And we'll have 10,000 of those. You're like, wow, that'll be a lot of money. Yeah, it takes a ton more. We have sold 100,000 T-shirts before of Hillary for Prison. And that helped fund a lot of stuff. But we sold half of them at cost. So we need the funding, InfoWarsStore.com. Carpe Diem was amazing. Just was inside the White House. He'll be okay till 10 after or so for the rest of the hour with us. He understands Tommy's a political prisoner facing certain death. They've pledged to do it. And so he'll be good. I want you to go through the rest of your breakdown of the evidence of the false charges against you and the total proof. Tommy Robinson.
Alex, first of all, what you were saying, you actually financially contributed to some of the equipment we would have been using on the day for this case. So thank you. And also, you know, I'm reaching out to the United States. There's been an organisation in the United States, the Middle East Forum, who have also funded our fight for free speech in the UK. They've funded and tried to fight and have me released and continue to fight my legal battles with me. So a thank you to them. I know so many Americans step forward when they see our freedoms are disappearing and that our people are under attack. I want to address the final charge, the breach in the Section 4.2 reporting restriction. Previously, I was ignorant to the rules around reporting restrictions and the rules around court. I'm a citizen journalist. I hadn't studied, I hadn't been to university. So I began to learn, and I paid privately to go to one of London's leading law firms, Kingsley Napoli. I went for training on contempt of court, for training on reporting restrictions. I went, I learned, I downloaded and read the judiciary's own paper. It's called The Reporting Restrictions in the Criminal Courts. It's available to download on the judiciary's own website, their website. In fact, the Lord Chief Justice himself, the lead of our courts, he introduces this report, stating that it's a practical guide for judges and the media on the statutory and common law principles which should be applied with regards to reporting restrictions. All you have to do is go on Google, put in reporting restrictions, criminal courts, you'll find it as a top link, okay? Now, let me read for you what it says, yeah? Any reporting restriction imposes potential criminal liability on media organisations, journalists or editors who breach it. If a breach occurs, media organisations and their employees may face unlimited fines. No mention of prison. For these reasons, it is essential that any reporting restriction should be reduced to writing as soon as possible. It should be clear and precise and in terms and drawn up as a court order as soon as practicable. Once orders have been made, they should be drawn to the attention of the media by being shown on the court list and on the door of the court, and wherever possible, sent to relevant local or national media organisations. Court staff should respond positively to media organisations' requests for assistance in relation to the existence of terms of a reporting restriction. Okay? Now, let me show you the court listings from the day before I went to court that day. Clearly, this is the court listings from the day before. As you can see from the online court listing the day before, they mentioned that the jury had retired, but crucially, there's no mention of any reporting restrictions in place. Clearly, it's not there, okay? This is a screenshot that I took that we were researching for this case. Now, of course, this led me to think the trial had finished, the jury's retired. Maybe the strict restrictions have been lifted. When I turned up to court that morning, I went into court. I asked a member of staff if there was still a reporting restriction on this case. The prosecution's own witness confirmed this in court. He told me he didn't know of any reporting restriction on the case. He did not provide me with the details, as he is required to do by the judiciary's own guidelines. Now, my cameraman also went into court and took a picture of the screen. He looked at the court door, both of which had no notification of any reporting restriction. The Attorney General read my statement, because with a civil case, I had to give my statement 3 or 4 weeks prior to court. I told them you didn't have reporting restrictions on the screen, on the door. You had no reporting restrictions anywhere visible, okay? Because of that, the Attorney General got a statement trying to disprove me by interviewing the manager of Leeds Crown Court. Unfortunately for the prosecution, she actually confirmed everything I said. In her own words, they had failed to adhere to the legal guidelines. In fact, the details of the reporting restrictions were never, ever once loaded onto the court system during the entirety of the 6-week trial. Now, let me show you this. This is the Law Commission, the British Law Commission. So the Attorney General in 2014 asked the Law Commission to do an investigation into contempt of court. So this is in there. It is now standard practice that any reporting restriction is shown on the Crown Court list under the name of the relevant case. allowing a ready means of checking whether there are such restrictions in place. Now, that's I've just showed you it wasn't on there, okay? I've showed you. Now, in March 2014, the Law Commission recommended that there should be a single publicly accessible website enabling the media and members of the public to find out if an order has been made under Section 4.2 of the Contempt of Court Act 1981. This website should include a restricted area where, for a charge, certain users could find out the details of the reporting restriction and could sign up for automated alerts of new orders. At the time of writing this website has not been established.
Tommy, stay there. Tommy, stay there. The point is the reporting restrictions are on things like a trial about nuclear weapons or national security, but they didn't even have one for this child molester thing they're trying to protect, which you've been proven right. You're the hero. And so they just make it up. Another reason they're throwing you in prison is saying you violated a restriction that didn't exist. The truth is you're a political prisoner about to be sent back to solitary confinement. You need to be evacuated to the United States with your family. We'll be right back. Carpe Donktum's coming up, fresh off his White House visit. First look at what's coming up, the big summit on memes, war, and social media this Thursday at the White House. And I know well more than 10 people that are going to be at the conference. They're going to have breakaways with the president. The Carpe has already been summoned there for a long 20-minute meeting with the president. We'll show you some of those photos and more, but a lot of interesting things to talk about, some on record, some off record, but a lot of interesting things are happening. You know, I physically get not even angry, but vicious, really focused when I hear about things like this, because I know Tommy's telling the whole truth. He's got all the proof. I've lived through this. I've already gone through some of the things he's gone through. Nothing is bad, but I understand I'm going down that same road. That's what empathy is. You know, when you see a squirrel run over, it's a squirrel. You still feel bad. Boy, I bet having its back broke really hurts. Hope it dies quickly. Well, what about watching a journalist who's a hero who exposed giant child kidnapping rings, and they're busting thousands of these men, sending them to prison, and the government is so pissed about it that they want to put Tommy Robinson in prison. They already put him in there for a year, then 3 months of solitary. The collaboration of the people in the British government and the UK government is astounding. We got a few minutes in this segment, a little bit more time than Carpe's coming on, but you're going through your evidence here, and I think everybody understands. No reporting restrictions. They've still convicted you of that. It's just total criminal fraud, and as you said, it's because the UK is so compromised. Go ahead.
The contempt of court law is out of date. It was set before the invention of the internet. The high degree of confusion around the guidelines to reporting restrictions led the Law Commission to conduct a 6-month review and a recommendation paper in 2014, specifically about contempt of court. The Law Commission found that the rules and guidelines are extremely confusing and could lead to a journalist mistakenly landing in contempt of court. Their sole recommendation, their one recommendation from their 6-month review of the government, was to create one national website that all the details for trials with reporting restrictions are placed. That would allow the media, would allow journalists, members of the public access. So if I wanted to go up to a court case, I'd go on one national website.
Tommy, stop right there. Listen, we all know they abuse the contempt of court rule, and they use it to protect pedophiles. That's been all over mainstream news. Everybody gets that at the White House. I want you to get into some of the other things and the reason you need to be... because obviously you're a journalist. They're kangarooing you. You don't get a jury trial. You're a national hero. We need you here. Hell, if you get to the U.S., you can have a show right here. You know, we'll get you a work visa. I know because of your prior convictions of the other fake stuff for journalism, it's even hard for you to get a visa to the U.S. Well, hell, the liberals do it. We'll just march your ass across the Rio Grande. I bet the Border Patrol will turn a blind eye. And we'll just bring you and your family. You just swim the river, brother. Or we'll just drive over in my RV. I'll pick your ass up. Because seriously, I mean, we got all these people flooding in by the millions that aren't real political dissidents. And then you're a real political dissident. And you need to file for asylum now and bring this up in court as well and just say, listen, you can have the country. Islam's got it. Bye-bye. And just let them know you want to leave. But see, they want to kill your ass. But see, that takes their plum away. Because if you make a big political issue, as you are now, they won't have their big victory.
Alex, the whole reason for all of this is a cover-up. The whole reason is not wanting the public to realise. Like, for example, that Law Commission and giving them... It's simple. It's very sensible and it's extremely easy to implement. One website. Why won't they produce one website so journalists can go on? Because if they did, anyone could go on and they would see the amount of secret trials of Muslim rape gangs in every single town and city's court across our entire width of this country. The public would then realise just how many of these cases there are. Because every single one of these cases now is given a reporting restriction preventing anyone talking about it. That's the reality of what it is. So that is exactly why I know I've come 34 seconds. That is why they haven't implemented that. This was their sole recommendation from a report by the Law Commission for the Attorney General.
That's right. So stay there. You've got 3 contempts of court. You've already hit 2 and other frauds. Hit the final one briefly. And then a summation. As you just said, your crime is exposing the giant industrial level. What, they'd have hundreds of trials, hundreds of convictions, thousands sent to prison off of what you first exposed 11, 12 years ago. You have exposed, just like all this stuff in our news, the pedophiles. Tommy Robinson hasn't gotten through half of what he wants to hit. The proof of the fraud, the lies, we already know it. We've seen the videos. The guy's a hero. He's facing prison again. 3 counts. Just on 1 count of contempt earlier, he was 3 months in solitary confinement. He appealed and got out on that. Now they're talking about throwing him in jail for years. This is incredible, ladies and gentlemen, so dangerous. You just heard the Democratic Congresswoman and others saying, arrest conservatives that even criticize herself or AOC. AOC warned Donald Trump Jr., I've got subpoena power, we'll arrest you. She doesn't even understand that the legislative doesn't have that power. These people are dangerous. Tommy Robinson, in summation, run through the rest of this information.
Those people that are dangerous are in power in Britain. They're in power everywhere in Britain. Now, even in the Attorney General's skeleton argument against me, this is how laughable this entire case is. In their own skeleton committal proceedings against me, it referenced a precedent from 1997, It was a case of reporting restrictions against a newspaper published in a PLC where it has decided, and I quote, no one should be in peril of suffering a criminal penalty for contempt unless the order which he is said to have infringed is clear. Okay? We've got evidence. It wasn't anywhere. There was no talk of an order. The crucial point is that all of this is irrelevant. The prosecutor just used all of these things in court as distraction tactics because I did not even breach the reporting order on that day. Even all the rules and regulations, The fact that the trial would come to an end, the failure of the court to notify the public of the existence of an order, I thought it weren't in place. Given how much the government have it in for me, I decided I would still not risk breaching it. During my training and my studying for contempt of court and looking at the judiciary's own guide, this is a guide that's issued for judges and the media on reporting restrictions. It mentioned one critical point, and I followed that critical point to the letter. The crucial bit of evidence, the crucial piece, is that on the judiciary's own website, it states, courts have no power under Section 4.2 to prevent publication of material that is already in the public domain. Now, this guide that I'm reading was approved by the Lord Chief Justice himself.
Listen, let's be clear. You went and you read a BBC headline in front of a court that had dozens of reporters out there, and then they've arrested you and already put you in prison once for doing that. Just like Roger Stone's facing jail before his kangaroo trial on Russiagate for linking to news articles on his Instagram feed. So, and our own law is the same. It comes out of British common law. It says if there's a reporting restriction or there's a gag, that doesn't gag you from restating what's already public or reading a record. It just means you can't yourself, as a party, say something about what's happening in the proceedings. So again, this is all total fraud by the court. Continue.
It's there. I simply, everything I said that day was in the public domain. Now, this is on the judiciary's own website. It's approved by the Lord Chief Justice, okay? I referenced this several times in my live stream that day. I stated clearly that if you watch the hour-long live stream, I was only referencing information already in the public domain. Now, they failed to make any clear detail of notifications of any reporting restriction in this case. According to legal precedent, that would mean they cannot hold me criminally liable. Crucially, I followed the...
Sure, and they give men 3-month sentences for raping over 50 girls and beating them and torturing them. We understand your government's super evil right now. Get to the third charge and then the summation.
Well, unbelievably, Alex, do you know what they said? When I quoted that everything I said was in the public domain, they said this information on their website was wrong. They said that's wrong. And when they say that's wrong, on the opening page of these...
Wait, you're reading the law and the rulings and the guidance on the law by the head court, by the Supreme Court, and they're saying that's wrong. I get it. It's total judicial arrogance.
And this sounds unbelievable, which is why I'm begging President Trump and your administration, please look at this case. They said it's wrong. They said, no, that's not the law. That's wrong. It's been on their website for 5 years. Let me just read this one bit. This guide is now in its 3rd edition. This is from the Right Honourable Lord Chief Justice. I warmly thank Guy Vassell of Matrix Chambers for his work in revising this guidance to ensure its legal accuracy. It's legal accuracy. They said it's wrong. Their case against me was that what I read on their...
Let's be clear. The same guy trying to put you in prison said that that is the letter of the law and certified it as the law.
Well, the Lord Chief Justice, this is the previous Lord Chief Justice, but the court, the prosecutor for the Attorney General's government, just said that's wrong, that's not the law. Now, I knew when I was defending my case, it's clear the prosecution was determined to open a massive legal net no matter what. It's become apparent the minute the prosecutor for the Attorney General, Andrew Caldicott, that was his name, yeah? He said he was at court, let me get him. So that's set on their website. On their website, which they then say is not accurate. And that is the guidelines for a journalist to go on. Now, last year, Leeds Crown Court broke every single legal procedure possible. They refused me my own legal representation. They didn't even tell me what I was accused of doing. They didn't ask me to plead guilty or not guilty. They didn't even let me speak. I was sentenced to 13 months in prison in a 10-minute trial, something you'd imagine being held in North Korea. It was rightly thrown out on my appeal after I spent 3 months in solitary confinement. Judge Marston decided that day that I needed to be immediately removed from the streets and sent to prison within minutes. The Muslim child rapist, with 16 witness statements detailing the rape and torture of children, he deemed they were no risk to the British public. He provided them with bail so they could continue to walk the streets alongside our children. Okay? Alongside our children. Now, one of these men decided to do a runner. He done a runner a week before the case finished. He's still hiding in Pakistan. That dangerous child rapist monster was on the run for months before reporting restrictions were lifted. So because of these these reporting restrictions, we had a paedophile rapist on the run, and no one could even talk about it. Our media couldn't warn people. They couldn't even challenge for his whereabouts. The government's #1 priority, first and foremost, should be to ensure the safety of the British people. Exactly what President Trump is doing for America. The needs to suppress the scale of these gang rapes across my country trumps everything. This scumbag rapist is still walking the streets now. He's evaded justice thanks to Judge Marston. Do you know, in over 60 years, no one has ever been in prison for a publication reporting breach. No one. The Judiciary Reporting Restriction Guideline, which is on their website, doesn't even mention prison. It just mentions a reference of a possibility of unlimited fines. Can I just show you and your audience and show the public some previous high-profile cases so you can get the context on what's happening to me? Rod Liddell. Rod Liddell was a journalist. He nearly collapsed the Stephen Lawrence murder trial by detailing the defendant's previous criminal record. He risked collapsing the murder trial. He wasn't even prosecuted. The magazine he wrote for got a £3,000 fine. Journalists at the Daily Mail and the Daily Mirror, they publicised prejudicial information on the Levi Bellyfield murder trial. It was so prejudicial, it collapsed the entire case. The jury had to be discharged.
Tommy, here's what's happening. I've got Carpe Donctum on. This is incredibly important. You've still got 10 pages of evidence here ready. And it's critical to people understand how the police state works. What you're saying is, even if you did these things, even if it was true, the law is still wrong, but you didn't do what they say, so they're lying, which is really criminal. And you've got the point that they've never given somebody sentences, 30 months in jail, a year in jail, 3 months solitary, like they are, and you need to get out of there, and you say London and England has fallen, and I agree, and I think we need to admit it's been fallen. Kind of like Spain fell to Islam, we can have a La Reconquista. But we can't have the reconquering of Wales and Scotland and Ireland until we admit all of these problems. So why don't you, I know you're very busy, but we're going to get all this together. I want your full statement. People go to the White House. Why don't you cool your heels for 45 minutes, because Carpe Duncum's got huge news as well from inside the White House, and just have dinner or something. I know it's late. And then come back for a couple segments. Gerald Celente will understand in 45 minutes and finish up. And we'll splice it all together and put it out. How's that sound?
Yeah, that sounds cool. Yeah. It's, it's my daughter's birthday, man.
Hey, you're kicking ass, and it's a great defense you're putting on. You want it on record before you go into this rat hole prison. I understand, brother. You're awesome. Tommy Robinson, finish up your report that we're going to combine together and get to the president.
Alex, I've shown you the fact that I was supposed to have caused anxiety to these grooming gang paedophiles. I've showed you the BBC report doing exactly the same. I've showed you the law on the judiciary's website that they cannot prevent you reporting what's already in the public domain. There's not ever been any question that anything I said wasn't in the public domain. I didn't report on the proceedings. I reported information that was already on the BBC News website. I've showed you the severity of other people's and other journalists reporting, which has resulted in prejudice in trials, collapse in murder trials, escaping justice for murderers. You've seen all of them, fines. I've compared them. Now ask yourself, those more severe breaches got small fines. Ask yourself why I received a 13-month prison sentence in a kangaroo court back in Leeds. It's because the British state's politically motivated attempt at shutting down and dissenting voices and genuinely trying to have me killed by Muslim gangs in prison. There can be no other reason why, when I was given 13 months, I was moved from the safety of Hull prison to the most densely Muslim populated prison in this country. That's where they moved me to. Now, in this country, this is the dangerous thing which everyone should be up in arms about. If a defendant is accused of a crime that can land them in prison for more than 6 months, it's the law of this land that they must stand in front of a jury of their peers to ensure fair justice. This contempt court charge holds a 2-year prison sentence, yet they're refusing me a jury of my peers because they know full well 12 ordinary members of the British public would throw this out. I would be found not guilty. This is the backdoor way of the Attorney General and the government effectively sentenced me to death in prison by bypassing the trial by jury. Even people who don't agree with me and they don't like my views can see that how unbelievably corrupt this entire process is. The fact the judges heard all the details I've just relayed to you, yet still found me guilty, makes an embarrassment of the British legal system to the one that was once respected across the world. They do not care. You've seen the betrayal of Brexit and democracy. Everything. And people need to wake up. There are a handful of elites who are connected and they actually don't give a damn what the people actually want or vote for. They don't care about the British justice system. Looks an absolute joke across this world. All they care about is getting what they want. We are run by nothing but a globalist dictatorship. The Brit that they moan about Russia, they moan about China, they moan about the clampdown on free speech. They're the biggest bunch of hypocrites walking this planet. They are traitors that are ruining my beautiful country. They're removing our fundamental freedoms step by step, day by day. Every day we're losing our freedoms. I want to make a genuine appeal to President Trump, to the Republican Party. Please consider me and my family for political asylum. The British state's appeasement to Islam, the unrestricted waves of migrants into this country, means that they are deliberately persecuting and illegally imprisoning anyone who speaks out against their globalist agenda. There are Islamic terrorists already serving 30 years in prison that were caught with guns, knives and IEDs on their way to murder me. The British state has issued me already with 9 government official Osman warnings, informing me that there are credible intelligence that Islamic extremists or far-left extremists are plotting to murder me and my family. Despite this, they refuse to provide me with any of the details of their intelligence, yet they inform me that I cannot take steps to protect myself. I cannot even defend myself. I'm asking for political asylum for the safety of my wife, my 3 beautiful children. If you have watched this video, you have seen the complete sham of a persecution. My legal team will now look at every avenue to appeal. The only option I have is to fight. If I'm put in prison, the only option I have is to fight. Every time I walk out my door, the only option I have is to fight. So I only know how to fight, and I'll fight it if I'm asking for political asylum. But if I'm left here, I get my written judgment. I'm waiting on my written judgment for how I've been found guilty. This prosecution has already cost, which is one of the reasons they stick it on me as well, it's cost over £115,000 in legal fees. The costs continue to escalate. I need to lodge an appeal as quickly as possible so I can work towards getting me released so I can prevent my murder in prison. Anyone who can help or support, we have an appeal fund. We have a website. It's tommyappeal.com. My real name is Stephen Yaxley Lennon. But we are all Tommy Robinson. Our freedoms in Britain are eroding. They're being taken. This is a plea to America and a warning to the United States, a warning to every single one of you. You see the opposition, the people and the groups that oppose you, the dark forces at work, the report, President Trump, the false dossier of Russia. The false Russian dossier was created here by someone working for our government. That's the level of deep, dark corruption in my country. They have built against you and worked against you, and I'm pleading with you. I will be left to be murdered in this country. I'm a journalist, and I'm going to be sentenced to prison on Thursday for journalism. The country you think you understand, the country you look to, the country that many people admire around the world, it's gone. It's changed. The level of corruption. We knew we had a corrupt media. We knew that. We all know that. We witnessed it all the time. We knew by the cover-ups, by the government and the police force, that we had a corrupt police, all aligning and cooperating together to suppress the truth about the rape of a generation. Understand this. When I talk about these issues, understand this. This happened to a relative of mine. She was a victim of one of these gangs. I have travelled across this country, meeting the families, meeting the victims. If people understood the true length and the numbers, and it goes against their vision that they want for this world, this open border policy, all cultures are equal, everyone's the same. It completely contradicts it when a culture comes in and enslaves a generation of our daughters. And it's that they're trying to hide. It's the embarrassment that I bring with my news reports. I worked on the biggest expose of the BBC this country's ever seen, a documentary called Panodrama. 5 days after Panodrama, these charges were rebrought against me. 24 hours after Panodrama, big tech, social media, YouTube, Facebook, all removed me because I exposed exactly the accusations you make, President Trump. The accusations you make of the BBC being fake news, I caught it all on camera. And guess what? In the biggest expose, not one single British journalist mentioned it. That is the proof of a corrupt media. That is the proof. They are not journalists, they are activists. And they're working against the sole interests of the people of this country. The country I love. And I ask, again, if you're watching this, if you're in the administration of President Trump, Donald Trump Jr., I'm pleading with you. Please raise concerns over this case. I promise you, all of the information, all my own barristers have said they've gone against the law. My own barristers said that it's impossible for me to get convicted, yet I've been found guilty of all 3 charges.
Tommy, we get that you're a trooper, and this is about the rape and enslavement of a generation. And it's up to the audience and the listeners to send the videos. We're going to post to Infowars.com, to WhiteHouse.gov, to all the radio and TV stations to make a big issue out of this. You should join us again tomorrow with the countdown to them trying to make you a political prisoner. And we appreciate you, and you've done a great job. Where can people, we're only at 10 seconds left, where's the best place to follow? TR.news, TR.news. For Tommy Robinson, great job, my friend. God bless you. We're all Tommy Robinson.